Initiators are the base role in PaymentWorks, meaning all users who have access to PaymentWorks will be defaulted as an initiator unless otherwise determined by your company's administration team. What exactly does PaymentWorks do? Well, PaymentWorks makes sure every entity that your company pays is who they say they are, providing banking, compliance, and onboarding assurance. What does an initiator do? Initiators are aptly named because they are the role that initiates the entire payee registration process. Everything starts with the initiator invitation. When you first log into PaymentWorks, you'll be brought to our home screen. Here, you will find all of the tiles and links needed to navigate around the PaymentWorks platform. Let's start by looking at the Help Center. Click on the Help link in the top right corner of the screen. This is where you can find hundreds of articles and videos to help you learn about PaymentWorks. You can search by keyword or phrase in the search box, or you can browse by topic. Now let's take a look at your supplier list. Click on the Setup and Manage Supplier Portal tile. You'll be defaulted to the Administration tab. You can tell which tab you're on by looking at the color difference. Notice the Administration tab is a darker blue than the others. Click on the Suppliers tab. Here, you will see all of the suppliers in both your ERP system and PaymentWorks. It is important to note that even though you may see suppliers listed here, it does not mean that they have been vetted by PaymentWorks or been approved for purchasing just yet. The most important column to look for here is the Connected column to the far right. Payees or vendors with a connected status means that they have been invited to PaymentWorks, submitted their registration, been approved by your vendor approval team, and then added to your ERP. Essentially, they have completed the entire registration process. You can search the list of payees or vendors by using the filters on the left. Additionally, if you need to see the invitation for the connected vendors, click on the View Request link under the green dot in the Connected column. Also located in the Setup and Manage Supplier portal is the Invoices tab. This is where you can find invoices and any corresponding information associated with them. To navigate back to the home screen at any point, you can click on the PaymentWorks logo, or use the drop-down and select Home, or click on the Home tab. As mentioned earlier, the most important part of being an initiator is starting the payee or vendor registration process. To start the process, click on the Vendor Master Updates tile. As an initiator, you'll be defaulted to the Onboardings Tracker screen. This screen displays all of the onboarding information available to all of the users at your organization. In standard configurations, the Onboarding Tracker will show all of the invitations sent by any user in your system. Keep in mind that depending on your organization's configurations, you may be limited to only seeing your own invitations. To search on any screen, use the filters on the left. Depending on the tile you're in, there will be a number of ways you can search. Specifically, the Onboarding Tracker view allows searches by vendor name, vendor number, email address that the invitation was sent to, approval status, like those still pending approval, along with a few other search options. It is a PaymentWorks best practice to search your supplier and onboarding screens for either an invitation or existing payee information before sending an invitation. This will help avoid duplicate supplier records or one supplier receiving multiple invitations. Let's send an invitation. Scroll to the bottom of the screen and click on Send Invitation. In the Invite New Vendor window, you'll be asked to enter all of the necessary information to send an invitation. You may see fields like company or individual name, the email address of the company contact to send the invitation to, a description of the goods or services being requested, and then fields for initiator information. Keep in mind that invitations can be submitted on behalf of other users, and you can use these fields to name them as the initiator. As the requester, your information will be stored with the invitation along with the initiator's information. The final field is a personalized message. While it is not required, we strongly recommend using this field to include a message to your payee along with the invitation link and corresponding information. Anything here in the Invite New Vendor window with an asterisk is a required field and must be filled out, otherwise your invitation cannot be sent. Keep in mind that your organization's instance of PaymentWorks may have a different set of requirements than what you see here. Once your invitation has been sent, it will appear in the Onboardings view. In some standard configurations, your invitation may be sent for review and approval by another role before being sent to the payee or vendor. At any point in time, you can come back to this onboardings view to look at the status of your invitations. Once your invitation is sent to the supplier, they will receive an email with a link, along with a personalized message and supporting information for them to register with PaymentWorks. As with most platforms, they'll be prompted to create an account. They will then be sent a verification email to confirm or verify that they are registering. Once verified, they can fill out and submit the registration form for review by both PaymentWorks and your vendor approval team. Here's an example of the registration form that your payees or vendors may see. Now let's take a look at the onboarding tracker screen to understand what information is being shown and how it works. Each invitation is its own line in the list of onboardings. There are 6 general steps in the onboarding process. In the onboardings tracker, the entire process from start to finish is represented as a line, with each of the 6 steps being represented by a circle along that line. Underneath each of the circles will be a status, along with a date and timestamp. These statuses are clickable. To learn more about the specific status you are interested in, you can click on the status link to expand the payee line. Additionally, in the invitation line to the far right, you will find an arrow. You can use this arrow to expand the invitation line and provide a detailed view. This view is broken into sections depending on the position of the invitation. For example, in fully registered and connected vendors, you will see 3 options: progress, invitation detail, and account information. For invitations that have not yet been claimed by the payee or vendor, the account details option will not display. This will only be triggered to display once an account is created. Looking at the invitation line, the first step or circle is the invitation initiation. This shows when the invitation was created, along with the current status of the invitation. Other statuses you may see here might be invitation rejected, meaning that the invitation was rejected by your organization, or invitation canceled. When an invitation is rejected, PaymentWorks requires a note from the approver, so be sure to look at the rejection notes by clicking on the status. In some cases, a rejection may simply require a change to the invitation details, like updating a phone number or correcting a typo, which can then be resubmitted to be reviewed and sent to the payee. A canceled invitation status means that the invitation was canceled. If enabled, cancel invitations will allow you as the initiator or the approver to cancel the registration link within the emailed invitation, meaning you can cancel an invitation that has been successfully sent to a payee, but only up until the invitation link has been claimed. The second circle or step in the onboarding process is the invitation approval. Most customer configurations of PaymentWorks have an approval step for invitations. At this step, the first status you will see is pending approval, which means that your invitation has left the initiator and is now sitting with the designated approver. This is the individual who would also reject or potentially cancel an invitation. The second status to be seen here would be an invitation approved and sent. This means that your invitation was approved by your organization's approver and sent to the payee through the email address listed on the invitation. The third circle or step in the onboarding process is for the invitation receipt. The first status you will see is the invitation email opened, meaning that the payee has opened the email containing the invitation to join your PaymentWorks instance. The second status here is the invitation link clicked, meaning that the payee has clicked on the link in the email invitation to register with PaymentWorks. The third and final status in the invitation receipt section is the email verified invitation received. This means that your payee has successfully created their account with PaymentWorks. They can now proceed to fill out their registration form. The fourth circle or step in the onboarding process is the registration submission. There are only 2 statuses in this section, the first of which is registration in process, no NVR yet. This means that the payee or vendor is currently in the process of completing their vendor registration form. They have not yet submitted their information for review by your organization. The second status here is registration returned pending resubmission, which means that your payee submitted their vendor registration form and it was returned back to them to make changes and resubmit. The fifth circle or step in the onboarding process is the registration approval step. There are a number of statuses that you will see in this portion of the onboarding process. To start, the status of registration submitted pending PaymentWorks review means that the payee has completed and submitted a registration form containing banking information, and PaymentWorks is currently reviewing the payee's submission. Registration submitted pending payee response means that your payee has completed and submitted their registration form, and PaymentWorks has reached out to them to verify their information. At this stage, PaymentWorks is waiting for the payee to respond to their request. Registration submitted pending internal review means that your payee's registration was submitted and is now sitting with your organization's approval team awaiting their review. When a new vendor registration is returned to the payee and then resubmitted, the same three statuses will apply. However, the statuses will reference the resubmission. For example, registration resubmitted pending PaymentWorks review. Registration rejected means that your organization has rejected the new vendor registration submitted by this payee. The final status is registration approved, meaning that the new vendor registration status by this vendor or payee was reviewed and approved by your organization. The final circle or step in the onboarding process is the onboarding completion status. There are only two statuses that you will see in this section. The first is onboarding complete. This status means that your payee or vendor has been reviewed and approved by both PaymentWorks and your organization. If your company has an integration between your ERP and PaymentWorks, you may see the status of registration processed. This status means that the information from the new vendor registration form has been processed for the integration between the ERP and PaymentWorks. Initiators can come back to this view at any point in time to understand where in the onboarding process their invited payee or vendor is. Use the statuses available to you to keep up to date on your invited payees and their registration progress. Please keep in mind that if you have any questions, you can take a look at our knowledge base for tons of resources and materials to help understand our platform.